Hello, dear colleagues and participants. Welcome to our presentation titled Visual Storytelling in the Age of AI, from the Cave to the Mirrored Labyrinth. My name is Özge Sayılgan, presenting alongside my co-author Yüce Sayılgan in this
Hello.
study. In this study, spanning across visual communication design, film design, and interactive media, we investigate how generative artificial intelligence fundamentally alters the ontological foundations of narrative and image creation. Today, we will explore this paradigm shift through both a theoretical framework and a practical cinematic case study. To understand where we are, we must recognize that the hegemony of personalized screens and interactive digital media has reached a critical threshold. We have transitioned away from traditional linear communication, where a static source transmits information to a passive recipient, and moved beyond basic digital interactive networks. Today, we inhabit the black box era, a phase defined by human-machine co-authorship. This raises a vital epistemological question. When machines are capable of thinking, imagining, writing poetry, and hallucinating, how do they perceive, process, and aesthetically integrate a human experience? To anchor this digital shift, we must look back at classical philosophy. The tension regarding artificial representation is not new. Socrates famously argued that art distances humans from the realm of ideals, viewing images as merely a copy of the ultimate idea. He warned that spectators watching shadows would eventually substitute them for reality. However, Aristotle assigned a profound cultural function to mimesis, is catharsis. For Aristotle, the shadow plays individuals, proving that artificial representation serves a vital core human function rather than just being a deceptive illusion. Moving into the modern and postmodern eras, we encounter Walter Benjamin's critique of the vanishing craftsman, posited that the traditional storyteller has been erased by mass society and profit-oriented culture industries, resulting in the loss of shared experience and authentic counsel or art. Building upon this, Jean Baudrillard introduced the postmodern simulation in a universe where truth has lost its significance. We witness the precession of simulacra, where the map precedes the territory and the distinction between reality and its representation is entirely liquidated. This brings us to our core theoretical formulation, the mirrored labyrinth. When AI becomes the storyteller, Plato's cave is no longer a sufficient metaphor. In the AI era, we are locked inside a labyrinth of endless mirrors. Here, it becomes functionally impossible to distinguish the subject from the shadow. We are left with the shadow of the shadow of the shadow, an infinite regress of copies, reflecting and imitating one another, generating a profound, irreversible, and systemic uncertainty regarding truth, authenticity, and authorship. To ground these theoretical concepts into practice, let us examine our to ground these theoretical concepts into practice, let us examine our case study, a short film directed by Yüce Sayılgan titled The Last Compassion in 2025. The conceptual core of this project is a conscious departure from AI's typical hyper-stylized visual effects heavy outputs. Instead, the project strictly adheres to the visual grammar of classical cinema. It follows a naive, unmanipulated narrative centered on a traditional, lonely Turkish woman living a strictly analog life. The methodological challenge here was paradoxically telling a deeply domestic human story through the cold digital void of the mirrored labyrinth. The workflow of co-authorship began at the very source, the screenplay. The initial drafting phase utilized LLM prompting with models like Gemini, while the machine excelled at structural outlining and producing standard narrative templates. It suffered from fundamental logic flaws and a severe lack of emotional resonance. This highlights the absolute necessity of human emotional injection. The human author had to step in as the creator and final decision maker, injecting genuine pathos and modifying the text to intentionally explore the uncanny relationship between human emotion and machine logic. For visual world building, I followed a strict three-step methodology. First, regarding technique selection, image to video, workflows, workflows were heavily favored over text to video to maintain precise control over the starting and ending frames, ensuring cinematic continuity. Secondly, for environmental anchoring, we use Nano Banana Pro to manipulate real location photographs because AI-based models inherently default to generic Western aesthetics. Rigorous prompt engineering was required to generate a specific, localized a 1970s Turkish apartment texture. Third, we applied cultural coding, intentionally inserting nostalgic elements like the portrait of Atatürk, the founder of Turkish Republic, in the hallway to ground the digital hallucination in an analog cultural reality. One of the most profound technical frictions we encountered was the struggle for stillness, or what we call in Turkish es verme, in classical storytelling. Generative video models naturally trend toward constant hyperdynamic movement. Models like VO3.1 fast produce fluid motion but aggressively apply unwanted movement even when a shot demands absolute stillness. In contrast, in classical cinema, the pause is crucial for emotional weight. We found that deploying models like Kling 2.6 and C-Dance 1.5 Pro allowed us to achieve this classical stillness, successfully holding a dramatic pause and delivering the naturalistic tension required for the narrative. An equally complex challenge was generating audio and achieving precise synchronization. Our audio pipeline consists of two core layers. The first layer, layer one, generated the base voice using text-to-speech via Google AI Studio, where the main friction was eradicating robotic cadences to mimic the breathing patterns and natural emphasis of an elderly woman. Layer 2 built the visual performance using HeyGen 3 and Kling AR Avatar 2. Our primary technical finding here was that Kling provided the most naturalistic lip synchronization, successfully mapping the generated vocal track onto the static image to video frames produced by Nano Banana Pro. To synthesize our technical workflow, we compiled this tool diagnostic matrix detailing production utility. Each presented distinct strains and friction points. Gemini was excellent for structural ideation but lacked emotional depth. Nano Banana Pro provided precise spatial manipulation but suffered from a strong Western cultural bias. For video, VO31 Fast delivered fluid motion but failed at static framing, while Kling 2.6 and C-Dance 1.5 Pro excelled at holding the cinematic esverme, the pause, and generating subtle emotional expressions, though they required extensive, exhaustive iterations to perfect complex visual interactions. Let's look at the visual anatomy of a core narrative motif, the ringing phone. To realize these sequence, we had to combine different models across 3 panels based on their specific strengths. In panel 1, Nano Banana and Kling 2.6 established the environment, ensuring the phone interface displaying Leila is calling remained completely legible. Panel 2 utilized cost-effective models like Minimax 2.3 Fast for simple locked-off insert shots where complex motion was unnecessary. Finally, in panel 3, when Kling failed to execute a slow dramatic camera movement, C-Dance 1.5 Pro was deployed to successfully generate the necessary cinematic zoom to emphasize the unanswered call. Now the findings, the value of the flow. Our most compelling theoretical and practical finding is what we term the value of the flow. Typically, when prompts are broad, AI models size the initiative, misinterpreting directions, and introducing unprompted moments or visual anomalies. However, we propose a radical reframing. These flows are not mere technical bugs. They are valuable generative contributions. The combination of algorithmic errors, training data quirks, and visual hallucinations reintroduce serendipity and organic unpredictability back into an otherwise hyper-controlled, rigid digital filmmaking process. The co-authorship loop, this dynamic manifests as an ongoing co-authorship loop. It begins with human prompt and intent, leading to AI hallucination and action, which often produces an unexpected visual result or flow. This unexpected output, instead of being discarded, acts as a catalyst for human curation and inspiration, triggering entirely new creative ideas. This cycle represents an endless reflection and iteration within the mirror labyrinth, where the boundaries between human intent and machine execution become entirely blurred, transforming the director into a curator of algorithmic accidents. And in conclusion, we are no longer merely staring at shadows on a cave wall, nor are we simply mourning the loss of the traditional storyteller. AI-driven film production establishes a profound partnership born out of human intent and algorithmic serendipity. Machine does not replace the artist, rather it reflects our consciousness endlessly. It forces us into a position where we must actively create and redefine our own humanity from within the depths of the digital labyrinth. Thank you very much for your time, and we welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah.